friends, and welcome. Today I'm sharing with you dollar store Christmas DIY ornaments. So grab a hot drink or a cold drink, a blanket, snuggle up, or maybe you want to grab some crafting tools and join me in crafting. It is going to be a long one. You're gonna be here for a while, and I hope you enjoy. These are items that come either from Dollar Tree or Dollarama, the supplies. I will let you know where they're from. So let's get started. The first project that I'm going to be working on, you're going to need some sort of a trimmer or scissors. I have cut out a Merry Christmas to all and to all good night. My A got a little messed up, so I'm going to need to use a permanent marker just to fix it up. I'm still learning how to use this Cricut machine and what's the best things to do. I have a piece of wood. You could use Jingle blocks if you have any. I do not, so I'm just using this piece of wood that I'm gonna cut the size, as well as this paper. And then I have also cut out a Christmas tree using my Cricut machine out of a reusable bag that came from Dollar Tree. Some rope that I had on hand, and I am going to use one of my favorite stains, which is the Very Thin Ultimate Wood Stain in Dark Walnut. And then you'll need a rag. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the size of my paper and where I would like to cut it. So you want to leave enough room for your wood to go down, and then my letters are gonna come down here. I think I'm going to go this way just to make sure. And then my letters I'm gonna leave about, so I think I'm gonna cut it around here and then around here. If you do not have a cutter, you can always use scissors. And I'm just using cardstock for this. It's actually poster board that I had left over from another project. Go. Now I'm going to cut my wood. Just gonna mark it off where I want to cut. I'm just going to use my garden shears. You could use a little saw. I'm going to measure another piece, approximately the same size. I'm just smooth the ends a little bit. Now I'm going to stain my wood. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonja, and this is my DIY channel where I create lots of different types of DIYs, mostly dollar store, but occasionally I do like to do furniture flip as well as trash to treasure. So if this is something that interests you, I would love it if you considered subscribing, pressing the notification bell so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. I also have two other channels, a cooking channel and a home channel. On my home channel you will find a lot of my DIYs and how I use them and display them around my home, as well as some cleaning motivation. There we go. That won't take long to dry because I didn't put a heavy coat on. So while it is drying a little bit, I'm just going to clean my hands because I don't want to stain my paper. I'm going to tape this on and glue this on, and again remember your wood pieces where they have to go, so you leave yourself plenty of room. So about here, I'm just going to put a little line just so I know where to put it. And for that, I'm going to use some of my school glue. I found when I used the Mod Podge, it was curling up a little bit too much, so I decided to give this a try, and I think it worked really well. I will go with Mod Podge over it, and now I'm going to transfer my letters. Go. Now I'm going to use Mod Podge and just go over it. I'm going to water the Mod Podge a little bit. And now the last step, I'm going to hot glue these to the ends and then add the rope. So here are all the supplies I will be using for these DIY ornaments. And the first ornament that I will be working on are these ball ornaments. And this is pretty straightforward. I am using sparkling crystals and Epsom salt mix, and also just some red glitter. I did the mason jars in a video on Saturday where I covered them with the Epsom salt and crystals, and I really like the way they turned out, so I thought, well, that would look really nice on as an ornament as well. So I did a cup of salt, Epsom salt, to about a tablespoon of the crystals. I forgot to take the stickers off the balls here. And the second, so I am using the tacky glue, and just covering the whole ball with it, not overly heavy but enough, and make sure everything's covered because the glitter won't stick on a spot where there's no glue. And then I repeat the same process for the red glitter, and that's just a regular red glitter.
A swinging Christmas, just like 1, 2, 3. Ba-bow, ba-da-ba-ba-bow, ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-dow. Ba-bow, ba-da-ba-ba-bow. Yep-ba-ba-ba-bow. Come on in, get together. Come on in, nothing better. So let us have a swinging Christmas, just like 1, 2, 3. So let us have a swinging Christmas, just like 1, 2, 3.
Here they are all finished. I think they look spectacular. For my next project, I'm going to be making a reindeer ornament. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you let me know if you know where this reindeer had come from, which project. And then you're gonna need some aluminum foil, just little odds and ends. You can be ribbon. I'm using just a piece of greenery, some berries, and a small pine cone, and then I need some ribbon. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, I will be putting some Mod Podge on here and gluing the aluminum foil onto it. And I want the less shiny side to be the front of the reindeer. So I'm going to use my Mod Podge that I had watered down.
Who is pulled by reindeer on his flight?
And you want to apply a generous amount.
From house to house you go.
So I'm gluing it to the shiny side.
Putting on his show. Don't ask me.
And I'm just going to take my craft knife, cut off the aluminum foil.
How he's done in time. I just know he seems to do just fine.
I'm just gonna rub it with my nail. I'll give it a little bit of roughness, and it's okay if some of this on the side kind of peels off. It gives it that almost like a rustic look, aged look. I'm going to add a little bit more on the antlers because they seem to be coming off. I'm going to go over the whole thing. While this is drying, I'm going to trim my greenery, and I'm going to trim a little bit off of the sides too, just so it's not so bushy. Going to hot glue it to the bottom. Now you can take some of this and put it even on the nose if you'd like. I'm just going to leave mine as is, and I'm just going to cut some ribbon. Just a little dab. And I'm going to hot glue it to the back. I'm using pine cones from the garden and these wood slices that I got at Dollar Tree, and those ball ornaments I got at Dollarama. I forgot to mention that. And just some twine, and I just loop it around and hot glue it to the bottom of the disc, and I also hot glued the pine cone to the bottom to the disc. And then one of them I put hot glue all over, and I used the same Epsom salt and crystal mixtures and just drizzle it over the edges, and I think it just gave it a really nice sparkling look, frosted look. I am so pleased with the way these turned out, and I'm glad I was able to use some of this Epsom salt and glitter mixture. The next one, I just took some white acrylic paint and just painted the tips of the pine cone, and it gave it a really nice snowy look. Like I said, these I was very happy with the way these turned out, and they looked really nice on my tree. For my next project, you will need 22 clothespins that I picked up at Dollar Tree, and you want to take out the metal part, and it's quite easy to do. You just take some sort of pliers. I'm just using my wire cutters just because I have them on hand, and it comes apart. Then what the next part that you're gonna do is you will hot glue the two pieces kind of opposite to what they were, because as a clothespin they're this way, and you're flipping them and hot gluing them the opposite way. And you do this for all 22 of them. Okay, so now these are all ready. And now you're gonna take the pointy sides and gonna try and make a circle. There, and now we are going to glue them together. Thread this through. Now you could paint this any color you want. You could put glitter on it. I am using it for my rustic tree that I have in my front foyer, which is very natural elements on it, and I'm not gonna do anything. For my last project, I had cut up a branch off of my birch tree. It's a little wet because it's raining outside. And I am using these Dollar Tree pine cones. I have frosted ones and unfrosted ones. They're the mini ones. And then you're gonna need rope and some hot glue. So I'm going to cut these in about same length.
Hardly believe it's here.
And I'm going to cut them all in half.
The days go faster somehow, but no chance of that, my dear.
Now I'm going to hot glue them together by applying hot glue all around each branch. And as you can see, I turn my branches around so that way they're all, the white parts of the branch is facing out, like towards me. You don't have to do that. I just want the white. You can also paint it, but again, I'm going for that natural look, so I will not be painting it.
Like life was pulling my leg. The days gone snailing by, slower than ever.
I'm gonna give this a second to dry. So while that's drying, I have a thinner branch that I just cut off one branch, and then I got a thicker and a thinner branches on it. And I'm just cutting these little pieces, and I'm going to be adding these to the ends. I think if I angle them a little bit, it'll be easier for them to glue on.
All my patience, but now the years passed and I Don't have to wait no more.
So now that it had some time to dry, I'm going to take my pine cones, and I think I'm gonna go with my frosted ones. And I just want to glue them in a circle.
Christmas Day, Christmas Day.
There, and then on the back of it, tying a knot, and I'm going to hot glue that knot into the middle.
Best day of the year, I can't believe it's here. It's Christmas, Christmas.
Mason jar lids and some leftover materials that I had from Canada Day and from fall still. I'm just cutting out circles, and I will be hot gluing them to the discs of the jar lid. I have burned, I think, 6 of my fingers doing this, so be very, very careful when you are doing this, because you might burn yourself.
Oh, it's time for Christmas. Oh, it's time for us. Oh, it's time for Christmas. Don't you know?
Once I was done gluing the material, I wrapped a nautical rope all around the lid, the outside of the lid, just to give it a more of a rustic look.
365 chances of the year to try to make it right. You have to see it clear. We all need a helping hand to put our things aside. It's time to take a stand with our eyes open wide. And we'll bring out the very best of you. Oh, it's time!
And then I glued the lid together. And then the last thing that I did for this ornament is I had picked up these stickers. They are die-cut wood stickers. I think that's what they're called. And I got them at Dollar Tree. And I just glued them on. Some of them were really sticky, but some of them weren't sticky, so I just added some glue to it. And then I just made a loop with some twine and hot glued that on, and I repeated the same process but a little bit of a different look for the smaller one.
No more jealousy, nothing we'll regret. You don't have to believe in Santa Claus to know what's right to do, fighting for a cause. And we'll bring out the very best of you. Oh, it's time for Christmas. Oh, it's time.
I do love the way they turned out, and they look really good at it. For my next project, I am using some of this twine that I've had. I bought this at Dollarama many years ago and never ended up using it, and I had come up with a pretty, I think, pretty great little project, a little DIY, but I can't find my garden shears. I think my mother-in-law steals them from me. So I'm going to just separate it, and this will kind of make me figure out what size I want this, what I'm making to be. So I'm just going to use these shears to cut it. So I think this is going to be the size, and I'm just going to build on it a little bit. So I'm just taking out the thickest pieces, and to be honest with you, if I didn't find this in my craft stash, I probably would have gone into my garden and just cut up the little branches, so you don't have to have this. Okay, So I think you get an idea what I'm making here. Okay, so I'm going to hot glue the... Okay, so now I'm going to hot glue these just on the edges. I want to be fairly generous with the glue so it doesn't come apart on you, and the glue's not going to show because you'll see why. And now I know what At any points you can add a little bits too, just so it stays down better. You don't want to bend it so it glues down. Just where it's naturally sitting, you want to add a little bit of glue. And now I'm going to build on it. So I'm just going to cut up a couple branches, and these can be different thicknesses. They don't need to be the same thickness. This is what's gonna make it a little bit more nicer. Okay, I think I'm gonna do one more layer. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. I think this top one should be okay. I'm going to tie up this rope. I'm just going to put a dab of glue here. And then I'm going to wrap it around. Another dab of glue. Just put that there. And now I'm going to repeat that for all the other angles. Okay, so this is done. Here is the star. It has so many ways that you can use it. You can make it your tree topper. You can put it as a part of the decor on the mantle or on your sideboard. I just love how rustic and simple my front entry tree. Used some of those stacking blocks or jingle blocks, I think, and some large popsicle stick or tongue depressors, and I glued them together. I ended up staining them with some wood stain that I had on hand. You could paint them, you don't even have to do that. And then I also used the same stickers, the woodcut stickers from Dollar Tree, to embellish them.
It's time for Christmas. Oh, it's time for us. Oh, it's time for Christmas. Don't you know? Oh, it's time for Christmas. Oh, it's time for us. Oh, it's time for Christmas. Don't you know? Oh, it's time.
And these ends will be using the red truck ornaments that came from Dollar Tree, some tongue depressors or large popsicle sticks. Those are from Dollar Store as well. And then this fabric that had come from Dollar Tree. I was super excited that they actually had them in my Dollar Store. And then a piece of cardboard and then some string, as well as this stain, but you can also just use acrylic paint if you want. And then I will also use Mod Podge that had come from Dollar Tree as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my cardboard into a decent square. Just really straighten out the edges as much as I can. And I'm using my Cricut cutter for that. This is fairly thick cardboard. I'm just trying to make the edges as straight as possible. So that's good, and now I'm going to just measure it out and find about a half of it or so. These are obviously going to be fairly large ornaments, but that's okay. So I'm going to stain just the one side of 8 of them. And the stain that I'm using is a gel stain in Spanish oak by Old Masters. And you'll need a rag as well. If you're looking for some decorate with me videos, make sure you head on over to my home channel. I posted my very first decorate with me video. I have decorated my front foyer and I'm really excited with the way it turned out. It needs a couple more things, but I will leave some stuff for my home tour, so there are a couple surprises during home tour once my home is complete. But I would love it if you had it on over there and let me know what you think. Okay, so they're done. I'm gonna let them dry a little bit. And now the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to take these. Just want to make sure my hands aren't dirty, and take some of this material. It's a decent size. And I'm just going to measure out and cut it to size. Okay, so that's done. Now moving on to Mod Podging. You want to apply fairly generous amount. Front and back. You want to flatten it out. Now it's time to trim the sides. So that one's done, and I'm going to repeat the same process for the next one. So this had some time to dry. I will be hot gluing these on once my hot glue is heated. And you can use some of these lines as guides to make sure that you're gluing everything straight, in case if Not always does it work out that you see straight. Okay, so repeat the same thing for the other one. So the next part, I'm going to use these little ornaments, and I'm going to remove the little hanging thing on them. I think I'm just going to cut it off with my wire cutters. And this can go really anywhere. It can go like this, it can go like this, you can put it right smack in the middle. It's really up to you where you want to put it. I think I might put mine right in the middle. It's like they spell your name. It's insane. And just to show you how it looks a different way, I'm gonna glue one here too. And let me know which one you like better. And now the last thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just going to glue this string for hanging. Lids, but I'm not using the middle, I'm just using the outside of the lid, the rim, as a wreath base, I guess. And some of these boxwood that I had left over spring, I think still, and I make wreaths. And then I also use some bells and some little vase fillers from Dollar Tree to embellish them. I also ended up using, I had some greenery left over from a different project, Christmas project, and I ended up making the second rim was made with that. Painted in blue. Ooh, yeah, that's what we do. We'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the windows in the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sanctuary. Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart. Here we go. All right. Dance, dance, now this Christmas, we're gonna dance. We're gonna dance, 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 come on. So there's that greenery that we're talking about. So instead of using boxwood, I just glued 2 pieces of that around the rim. All night long, we're gonna dance, dance, and have a good time. I think Santa's gonna come and join us in this song. I love the way the boxwood. For my next one, I'm going to be using these ornaments, and I picked these up at Dollarama for $1.50 for 4. So this should be a fairly simple DIY, I think. I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible in explaining. So I want to make a 3D ornament out of these, and you want to slice one of them up and one of them down. So I'm going to cut this one right there, but I just have to figure out what is the best tool for that. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open this up and just slide it on. There we go. And now you can also just slide a little bit of wood glue or hot glue into the little crevices, just so it keeps it from coming apart, but it's on there pretty tight, so I don't think that that will happen. Now I have that, and I also bought some stars, and I will do the same thing to the stars. You want to kind of loosen up any loose pieces so they're not getting caught when you're trying to slide it on. Okay, so this one was a bit harder than the other one, but I still managed to do it. So again, I'm going to just put a little bit of glue just to keep it in place. I'll let them dry, and then you can just add your string back for hanging. Actually, I'm gonna grab new string just so it's a little bit longer.
I can hardly believe it's here. Been trying to make the days go faster somehow, but no chance of that, my dear.
Project, you will need some form of gray paint. I am using any Sloan Paris gray. It's chalk paint. Then I had picked these up at Dollar Tree a while back, and they're just 3 little planters. Then you're gonna need some rope, some form of a rope, and white paint, a paintbrush, something for sponging white paint on, and hot glue. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to paint my pots with gray paint, and I'm going to let them dry. You could probably do this with some spray paint as well. It probably would be a little bit faster. 1 coat will be enough.
Can't forget about the one with the red nose. When I fly.
So the color on these bells dried a little bit lighter than what I originally would have liked. So I'm going to actually add some black and white acrylic paint. And the look that I'm going for is more of a forged metal look. So I'm going to dip in black and in white, and then I'm just going to go over it. I'm actually going to use my stenciling brush. It just might go a bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry and repeat the same process on these ones, on the other one. And you don't want them to look identical. And it's okay if some of the gray underneath shows. That's the whole point of painting it gray, not leaving it green. So I'm going to let those dry, and there's one more step to them. So I cut up 3 pieces of rope, and I'm going to hot glue each to the top. I'll let these dry. So here they are. I think they're gonna look great hung up on a corner of a mantle or on a corner of a banister. And the last one that I'm making, I'm going to be using these colored wood sleighs that I picked up at Dollar Tree, and they are nice ornaments. Okay, so, and these can be as elaborate as you want them to be or as simple as you want them to be. I'm just going to use a couple different paints for this job. I'm going to make them a little bit more simpler. You could stain them, you could really do them many different ways. So the first one, I'm going to paint the body with white, but it's going to be more of a, I think more of like a base, like a primer, just to cover up the little design. Actually, I'm gonna do it with black first, and then I'm gonna try something else with white, because black will do a better job of covering it up. So I'm gonna let that dry a bit, and this one I'm going to paint the body with red. And I'm using Christmas red and just black. I think I'm gonna have to do black here as well. But I will do red on this one for the little sleigh parts, the little blades, I guess. And I'm going to take some of my red off and just go over the black a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. And for this one, I'm just going to dab some of this black off. There, and then I'm going to go over with a little bit of dry white.
Come on over for the merriest time of year.
I'm still going to paint the sleigh leg, the blades part with red. But I have some of that black on, which on the brush from the other project, which I will just leave on. And it's okay if it gets on the little sides, that's fine. I have one of these in actual full size, and they're the paint is kind of mixed up everywhere, which what I kind of gave me the inspiration for this project.
Before the clock strikes and it's all too late.
So I'm going to let that dry, and then for this one I'm gonna dry brush white on this as well, a little bit, but just in the little crevices. There, and then I'm gonna go full black on the top part.
The most of what we've got. So take your.
I'm not really loving how almost pinkish this turned out, so I'm gonna go over it with some red a little bit more. And I'm just going to take some of it off. And then I'm gonna go over it with a little bit of black. And just take some of it off. So I think that's better. So I'm going to let these dry. I think for the top, I'm going to take one of these from this branch, cut it in half. I don't know if I love this. Cut it in one more half. Go this way like that. Not sure if I like that either. Okay, I think I'm gonna just leave one like that. Then I'm gonna break off one of these berries. Put it right there. I have these mini pine cones that came from Dollar Tree as well, and just trying to find the smallest one there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side.
What might be under the Christmas tree? Oh, can I please, please have that bird?
I am using Dollar Tree Christmas cookie cutters, as well as acrylic paint in gray or silver, black and white, and then you will also need just some ribbon for hanging. So originally I was going to paint my cookie cutters with silver. I did intend to buy gray, but I ended up buying silver, which is more metallic. But the paint really wasn't going on the way I wanted it to. So I have decided to move on and go get my black spray paint and spray paint them black as a base coat. Let that completely dry, and then dab the other paints on it. The look that I'm going for is a galvanized look. I absolutely love galvanized look anytime, but especially during Christmas time, and I have created several different pieces already when it comes to the galvanized look. And let me tell you, I am over the moon happy how these turned out. They look nothing like what they started off. They look high-end, and they look amazing on my rustic woodsy Christmas tree that's in my front hallway. So as you can see, I am just layering the paint on. After the black dried, I went with white, then I went over with black, and then I over it with silver, and then I still wasn't quite happy with the result, so I ended up mixing the black and silver, creating a more lighter gray, and I went in with that, and all those three paints mixed together just created this beautiful galvanized look. And I finished the look off with some ribbon. The supplies that you will need for all three different ornaments that I will be making are as follow. You will need some fillable ornaments. Even though I'm not filling them, I just needed clear ornaments. You will need a couple different paints, especially white one. I am using a paint tray and some paint brushes, sandpaper, Mod Podge, Jenga blocks or tumbling tower game blocks from Dollar Tree, some wood slices from Dollar Tree. Then I have these stamps with just different sayings and an ink pad, some nautical rope, some different pattern paper, and a drill. So the first project that I will be working on is with these blocks. So you will need blocks, you will need paint, you will need stamps and a stamp pad, a paintbrush, a drill, and some rope. So first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take 4 of these and I'm going to drill a hole in them. If you do not feel comfortable using a drill, you can always hot glue the rope. I am going to paint the blocks, but very lightly. I don't want too much paint. Once these have some time to dry, you can take a sandpaper and just distress the edges a little bit just to make it look a little bit antiqued. And now I'm going to take my stamper and my stamp. You can also make sure that the edges are clean before you stamp. Here they are on a tree. I think they look really cute. So for the next project, you will need the wood slices and several different colors of paint, and I will just pick the biggest, like the bigger ones, not the really tiny ones. And you will also need some hot glue for this one, which I did not mention. So first thing is I'm going to lightly paint the bodies. Now you can hot glue them together like this, and I will also cut a piece of rope for hanging. Draw the paint the face. And the buttons. Hot glue the rope. Hot glue the body. I think this is my favorite. That I picked up for $3 at my dollar store and more. And I picked up 2 of them. Unfortunately, one of them met its fate, but I was going to take a picture of them when it was done. And I'm also using fake snow from Dollar Tree, the little tiny bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree, and these car ornaments, red truck ornaments from Dollar Tree. Yes, so I was going to take the picture for my final project, and I dropped one, and that's unfortunately the case. When you're using glass, they will break if they fall. I think at the height that it fell, the plastic one would have broken off as well. So I take obviously the tags off the glass ornaments, and I take apart the cars, and then I use hot glue to attach, to glue the red car as well as the little bottle brush trees. Now when I glued the small little bottle brush trees, I realized that I wasn't 100% in love at the height of it comparing to the truck, so I ended up adding the medium-sized bottle brush trees that I had left over from the very first project that I was doing, and that ended up looking so much better with the 2 trees and a truck. And then I just added a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of the glass, and for the snow to stick. Not all of the snow stuck to it. I just didn't want all of it to dump out on me if it got tipped over or dropped in my case. I'm actually thinking about using this as my tree topper. It is a snowflake that I had picked up at Dollarama for $4, and then I have these words, "Let It Snow," and this was from one of those signs from Dollar Tree that I just popped off. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. So one of these, it looked like that, but I popped it off here because I have a different plan for this board. And then the fabric from Dollar Tree. Then you're going to also need some hot glue and Mod Podge or tacky glue. So I'm going to water my Mod Podge down a little bit, just a touch, just so it spreads a little bit easier. Take this off. I will add it back on afterwards. Well, maybe not. If I'm going to use it as a tree topper, I probably will not be adding it. You want to add a generous amount of Mod Podge. So if this is your first time stopping by my channel, my name is Sonja, and this is my DIY channel where you will find lots of different dollar store trash to treasure type of DIYs. I also have two other channels. I have a home channel and a cooking channel. And if you would like to see how I had decorated one of my Christmas trees, I already have it up on my home channel. It is my rustic, woodsy looking Christmas tree, and I do use a lot of my DIYs on that tree because I do like to make my own ornaments. Okay, so that's covered pretty good, and now I'm going to go with this fabric and just put it on, press it down.
The wonders of life got the prettiest side.
So I'm going to go over with the Mod Podge again on top.
I am right where I wanna be. I will be home for a couple of days. Wonder.
So there we go, and I'm going to let this dry for a good amount of time. So this had about an hour to dry. So I'm going to go with my sharp knife and cut off the fabric.
It's Christmas and some kind of love, my friend. I pray it will never end. Do you like to be here too? It's Christmas.
So some of the flaps aren't sticking, so I'm just going to put a little bit more glue, but I'm gonna use my tacky glue a little bit. Might stick a little bit better, maybe, I don't know. I know it does take quite a long time for this to set. Okay, so now I'm contemplating whether I should cut, but I don't think I will. I think I'm not gonna cut these slots out. I'm just going to leave it as is. And I'm going to hot glue Let It Snow on here. And it just fits.
Pick up some candy canes and hang a wreath on your door. It's Christmas.
To the back of it, I'm going to hot glue a good amount. You can even put Gorilla Glue if you want. This piece of garland, so that way I can just twist it onto the tree when I do my back, when I'm attaching it to the back.
It was the night
I had picked up a while ago from Dollar Tree. Some of the bottle brush trees, some paint, some fake snow, and some branches and berries. And first thing that I'm gonna do is I wanted to give the lids, the plastic lids, a bit of a galvanized look, so I end up painting them with black and then following over them with the silver paint. And I'm using a foam brush to sponge the black on, and then I'm gonna use my stenciling brush to brush on the silver. So once that was done and dried, I take my boulder brush tree and just measure out where I need to cut it, so that way I can glue it and it sits nicely inside of that plastic part, the clear plastic part. And again, you kind of just have to hold it in place until it's set. Once that's in there, I repeat the same process for the other tree.
Christmas lights are all around. I can see them now. It's like this.
I give them a little bit more time to dry, just so that way the glue is completely dry before I move on to another step. And while that's drying, I'm going to arrange the top for the top of my ornament, where I add my greenery and my berries. And I like to give the little pine branches a trim. They just look much better if those little pine needles are shorter. So now they are fully dried, I assemble the ornament. I take some of this fake snow and pour it inside the clear part of the ornament, and then I screw on the part with the lid that has the Christmas tree on it, the bottle brush tree on it. And I repeat that for both of them. And then while I was doing this, I kind of thought of another idea, so I will show you what I do with the last one. I'm not gonna paint the lid, just so I don't repeat the same process over again, but I thought this one looked really cute. So instead of a tree, I'm going to add this pine cone. And you just have to make sure that the pine cone fits perfectly onto the lid, so that way you can put the top part of the ornament on. I would also like to say that if you're stopping by my channel for the very first time, welcome. My name is Sonja and this is my DIY channel. I have 2 other channels which will be linked in the description box if you would like to check them out. But on this channel you will find tons of seasonal DIYs, furniture makeovers, as well as trash to treasures.
Through the winter night,
So here they are, and I think they look so cute. They have that farmhousey, rustic look. For my next project, I had picked up a package of these snowflakes. They had come from, I think these snowflakes came from Dollar Tree. There was a package of 3 of them. And I'm going to use some of my leftover fur, and oh, there's another one. Some of my leftover fur. I think my dog had a little bit of way with the fur, but I'm going to try and take the fur and glue it onto here and then cut out everything. We'll see how that works out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to apply all the glue that I need onto the snowflake, and I'm just using hot glue, and I'm going for the longer parts right now, and then I'm going to go over it again, just so the glue doesn't dry too fast on me. I'm going to take my cardboard knife and cut off the fur. When I got a bit better knife, hopefully that'll work better.
We forgot what you came for, and in the coffee shop just next door, we talk for hours on end.
And I'm going to add the glue to the sides.
From now on, yes, from this Christmas.
And I'm just going to trim the middles with the scissors.
From this Christmas on, it's gonna.
There we go. I think that looks really pretty. It's a little bit of work, but yeah, I think it's well worth it. Now for my next one, I am going to cover it with Mod Podge. Put a generous amount on. So I have some coarse salt. You can use Epsom salt. This is pickling salt, and the reason why I'm using pickling salt is because I ran out of Epsom salt, so I want to give this a try. And I have lots of pickling salt. And I'm going to add my Spectra glitter. Mix that up. And I will leave a link down below where I got my glitter from. And now I'm going to just add it to the snowflake. So it doesn't have a lot of glitter, but it does have enough. I don't know, even though you can actually see it. If you want a little bit more, you can always go directly on it with it a little bit. And I think that's just a little nice touch of glitter. You can also paint the snowflake if you want, but I like the way it is, and I like how the salt kind of drips off of it to kind of leave it almost like looking like icicles. For my last project, if you watch my channel, you saw when I used this last time for my wrapping up presents. I'm going to make ornaments. I have some rope here that I'm going to cut, and then I'm gonna make a little dent. Put some hot glue in there and add the rope. Also add a rope a little bit around. So while that's setting, I'm going to cut my blanket into strips. I'm just cutting off the stitched end so it's not thick, too thick. And then I'm gonna take my styrofoam and just approximately measure the length, and then I'm going to cut all of these into that length. And they don't have to be perfect, just approximate. So I'm going to take this one that I have ready and put a zigzag strip of hot glue, and you want to work fairly fast. You are working with styrofoam, it will melt. And then you want to put some glue to overlap the edges. Try not to burn yourself. There's the snowflake, the little ornament. I think some of it had melted a little bit, but I think it still looks really cute. Now I just thought I could do one in my Mod Podge. Coat the ball with Mod Podge. To make sure that the whole thing is coated, and then just roll it.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping people pleased.
So I'm putting the little stuff over the hot glue as well. And there, I think that's nice as well. Shake it off so that all the, ooh, maybe don't hang it before it's dry. Just gonna hold it together, and then I'll show it to you what it looks like on a Christmas tree. The last one, I'm gonna use tacky glue, but first I'm gonna hot glue the rope on, let that set.
I've been hanging marbles in the tree, and
I'm going to take my tacky glue, squirt it on, and then I'm taking that leftover fur and just putting it on. This won't be a quick dry, but I think it might work a little bit better.
These are the good times with you, baby.
I think these ornaments will provide different textures to my tree, which I love using different types of ornaments. Like I said, different feels, different textures. I think it just adds so much character to your tree.
Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memory.
So I'm going to let this completely dry before I hang it up. Well, I hope you enjoyed all these cute and easy DIYs. I think they turned out really cute, and I'm going for that, like I said, some gnomes. I know last year they were a big hit, and they're slowly coming back this year as well. And so I will be making ornaments, gnome ornaments, and for that I am using two different furs. And these have come from Michael's. They're just leftovers. And then these little wood slices that came from Dollar Tree. I will use these two little beads that came from Dollarama in this giant set. And then just some felt. And I got this pack of felt from Dollarama. you want some sort of a rope for hanging, and then you need hot glue. So let's get started. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just going to tie these up so they're ready to go. So that's ready, and now I'm going to cut my fur. And you want to use a razor or something sharp to cut, because you just want to cut the top layer. You don't want to cut the bottom layer. I'm actually thinking I'm not even going to cut this. I'm gonna leave it as is, because all I have to do is fold it. I was a little bit worried how it's gonna look, but I think it looks just fine. Maybe I'll trim it a little bit with sharper scissors. Okay, so I'm going to put this here so it's ready to go. Yes, that's right. And now I'm going to put hot glue to the top, and then right there.
Well, I'm all for.
Not very centered, so I'm gonna redo it and do a bit better job in centering it.
Christmas, all the happy smiles and the wishes.
Maybe I'll do it this way, so that way I can have a better look. There. That's much better.
And I want it all from the lights.
There we go. And now for the hood, I'm going to use the felt. I'm gonna go with red one. Going to cut it in half. So I'm gonna fold it in half and then fold it in the other half, and then I'm just going to cut straight down, and that way I'll get somewhat of a perfect triangle. It's a little long, so you want to shorten it. There we go. Flip it over and hot glue it. And then you also want to put just a little dab of glue at the bottom to keep its shape a little bit. There we go. And you can, I'm thinking I'm going to actually fold it even more to make it look a little bit more like a hat, not like a king's hat.
To the mistletoe.
Okay, and now I'm going to add the little bead for the nose.
Tell me one thing. Is there anything that you're missing? I will keep you warm as soon as you remove that.
Like that. Now I'm gonna repeat the process with my other fur as well. Pay attention to the direction of the fur is what I would suggest, and then cut it and see it's going down. So I'm going to cut it that way, and then I'm gonna go this way. There we go. There is a specific fur that you can use for this project that won't do this shedding like that, but I didn't have it. This is what I had on hand. So we'll just work with what we have. And then for the hat, I think I'm gonna give him a black hat. So again, fold in half and another half.
No, whatever we do, we will be alright. These holiday wonders will open your mind.
Other camera died, so I'm using a different camera.
May all your wishes tonight come true.
There we go. I think these look really cute. So here they are. For the very first project, I am using this wooden sled that I had picked up at Dollar Tree, and I want to give it some life by painting it and maybe doing some stenciling. So I'm going to paint it with a apple barrel paint, it's an acrylic paint in black as well as flag red. And the red is going to go on the top and the black will go on the sides and on the bottom. I love sled decor for Christmas. I even picked up a vintage sled last year for my front porch that I absolutely love. And that was actually the paint for this sled was inspired by that vintage sled. So I wanted to make it look a little bit vintage. I did find that the red was a little bit bright, but I did end up adding some black into it, so that made it look less bright. I am using a wider brush for the bottom. However, I did find that into the little crevices I needed to go with the thinner brush, and I actually use a lot of makeup brushes for things like this. I just find that they work really well. If you can get your hands on cheaper makeup brushes, they might be well worth buy, because they do work for a lot of small spaces, or if you need thinner lines, and especially the eyeliner makeup brush does a really good job in thin lines. So as you saw, I added some black and then I just wiped it off and blended it, and now I'm just adding a little bit more red paint over top of it and blending it all in. I did decide to add one more paint color to this, and that was going to be the white acrylic paint. I wanted it to give it a little bit of a snow effect, but before I did that, I did some more blending, and I'm just using a coffee filter to blend it all in. I'm not sure where I saw this being done. You could probably use a paper towel as well, I assume. And once everything was blended in, there was a little bit of red paint on the sides, a little bit of black paint on top, and that is exactly what the look that I was going for. I thought that this gave it that vintage look. So I also wasn't quite sure what I wanted to put on here, and then I ended up deciding just to go ahead with the snowflake. So before I actually dry brushed the white paint on, I did sponge the snowflakes on it, and I am just using a dollar store bristle brush and a apple barrel white paint, acrylic paint. And like I always say, when you're stenciling anything on, less paint is better. You can always build up on it, but if you go too heavy, you might get leakage. And I wanted to give it some effect, like the snowflakes were kind of not fully on in certain areas. I hope that makes sense.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping people pleased. But this is my favorite holiday. It's a chance to start over.
Once the snowflakes were on there, I felt like it still needed a little bit more, so I decided to add these little stars to it as well.
'Cause I missed you, so I'm letting go of everything but you. These are the good times with you. Baby, this year it's just...
And then whatever paint was left on that brush, I just dried it off a little bit on the rag and then just dry brushed it, the rest of it onto the sled.
Gonna be you and me, hang by the fire and chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, and I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's...
And to finish the sled off, I just gave it a light sanding, and this I think was what gave it that even more of that vintage look.
to be making our Christmas memories. Oh, oh, la, 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 oh, oh.
I just love the way this turned out, and I think this one will go on my rustic front tree.
Christmas memories. I've been wrapping
I made 2 of these. I picked up these clear ornaments at Dollar Tree, and these napkins I had left over from last year's DIYs. They came from Walmart. Now I'm going to be making 2 of them. I will only share one because they're exactly the same, both of them. I just wanted to have 2 of them. So I cut 1 napkin out for this whole project. So very budget friendly and inexpensive. Obviously, if it's budget friendly, it should be inexpensive. And then once I cut it up, I just separate the layers of the napkin because you only want to have that one layer. And then I use a matte Mod Podge to apply onto the ornament, and then that was obviously my glue for the napkin. And I covered first the one side and then just gently placed it, and then I tried to make sure that the truck and the letters or the words were nicely on there, not wrinkled. The rest of it I was okay if it wrinkled. I just really wanted that truck not to wrinkle up. And I was showing you that it looks really cute without adding the back to it because you can see the truck through it, but I still decided that I wanted to do the same process on the back. And then once I was happy with how the placement was, I ended up just pinching the sides around, and then I trimmed it off all the extra, and you don't have to worry about covering the whole side because I will show you what I'll do, but I did end up just pressing everything down and smoothing it out. You don't want to press too hard because the napkin will rip. And then I went ahead and hot glued some nautical rope to go around it. I did see this DIY a few years back, a similar one on Pinterest, but I was never able to find these ornaments. I found the full circle ones like ball ornaments, but I've never found ones like these, and these worked much better. And then I finished it off with more layers of Mod Podge on top, just to give it that more solid texture and make it more permanent so it doesn't come off. I just love the way these turned out.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been wrapping presents for you. I've been hanging marbles in the...
Now these were a package of I think 5 wooden snowflakes. I will be using 2, and I will save the other ones for a different DIY. So first thing that I'm gonna do is add this rope, and the reason why I'm doing that is because it would be a lot harder to add it once it was done, because I will be adding some salt and glitter to it. And if you're trying to do this after, I think it would make a lot of that glitter and salt fall off. So once the ropes were on, I ended up putting some Mod Podge on the whole snowflake. You can also use tacky glue for this if you'd like. I would not recommend hot glue, just because it would dry out by the time you end up sprinkling the whole thing. And when you're adding glitter, you want to add it on top of some tray, so that way you contain your glitter in one spot instead of putting it just on a surface like on the table. Then it'll get all over the place. And I do this on both sides. And for the first one, I am using a white glitter, Spectre glitter, and mixed in with some Epsom salts. I had this left over from, was it last year or the year before, and I just had the leftovers in a Ziploc bag. And then the next one, I added a little bit of a red glitter to it as well. I didn't want it to do it fully in red. I wanted it to be a little bit mixed up. So I think this worked out really, really nice. Very easy, extremely inexpensive, and the end result is great. And I have a perfect tree for these as well.
And I've lit my house with Christmas lights, so you should come back home to me. And when we wake up in the morning, I'm gonna play those carols that you love. We'll be singing all the melodies until the sun.
Now, these ones came from Dollarama last year, and I had some left over, so I thought I used them up. So I ended up leaving them as they are. You could also paint them if you don't want them just in that wood color. And you want to remove the little rope off of them. I added some Mod Podge to two sides, and then I am going to glue that leftover trim from the napkin that I used earlier, and just that buffalo check side, and I'm gluing two opposite of each other, so that way when I hot glue the other part of the tree to the other tree, you will see both sides the right way. I hope that makes sense, but you can at least see what I'm doing if I can't explain it. So you didn't technically have to put Mod Podge on both of the trees, only on the one. And then I trim off, and then to trim it off, to smooth it out a little bit more, I am going to just take my little sanding block and just get into the little crevices and sand the paper off. I think this was the easiest instead of trying to cut it off. This was such another very simple DIY, and I just love the way it turned out. The only recommendation is blow on the hole. So if you end up putting some Mod Podge on there, you can get it out. Different than what I started off thinking it should turn out to, but I picked up this at Dollar Tree. They have all sorts of shapes. I already shared my Christmas tree shape and what I did with it, and now I'm just using the ornament shape, and I will be making it into an ornament. So I give it a solid coat of that same black acrylic paint I've used earlier. And then once I have the fully painted, I am just painting the one side. I take a rag and just wipe some of it off, and this does make some of that wood grain show through, which I just love. And you want to get into all the little crevices and wipe it all the way around.
Comes up, these are the good times with you. Baby, this year.
Now, once that was done, I was going to use those wooden shapes, but changed my mind. I am going to go ahead with the stencil again and just figuring out what I wanted on there. And I'm going to stencil it on with some white acrylic paint. I wanted this to kind of go along with a sign that I made in my last DIY that I shared on Tuesday. And I think I forgot to mention that these stencils did come from Dollar Tree. I picked them up last year or the year before. I have not seen them yet this year, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be out, and maybe they'll have even better ones than these ones. I have used these quite a bit in the past year. And for the sponging for this, I'm just using a small piece of sponge. And again, less is more, and then I'm just adding some stars to it again. And to complete it, I'm taking that extra rope from the Christmas trees that I made just earlier, tying it up, and I'm going to hot glue it to the back so that way I can hang it up on a Christmas tree. So all of these DIYs were so easy to make. They all came under $1.50, and they can go with any style of a Christmas tree, because you can make it go with any style by choosing the paints that you put on them or the napkins you Mod Podge on.
It's just gonna be you and me, hang by the fire and chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, and I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it
I hope you have enjoyed these $1 or less than $1 ornaments. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!
Well, I'm all for Christmas, all the happy smiles and the wishes.